time is now 7:02, and I would like to call the order of the Beloit City Council meeting to order at this time. May we have the roll call, please?
Roll call shows all councilors present.
Thank you. Second item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Will we all stand, please? Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item of business is special orders of the day and announcements. We have none at this time. Item 4 is public hearings. 4A, please.
A resolution approving a change in use of the city's home program funds.
Mrs. Christensen, please.
In July of 2001, we formed the Rock County Home Consortium with Rock County, City of Janesville, and City of Beloit. This allows us to receive home funds directly from HUD. Typically, we've allocated home dollars to homeowner rehab projects, and then earlier this year, we actually authorized the use of it for rental rehab as well. We're on a time crunch with some $09. You have 2 years to commit to a project, and so we're requesting that we have the flexibility to also do acquisition rehab with those funds, while recognizing that homeowner rehab is the priority and has always been the priority, which that's included actually in your resolution as a now therefore be it further resolved. We currently own a house at 326 St. Lawrence, which is purchased as part of the Neighborhood Development Initiative. There were never enough dollars to rehab that house. It is a historic house, and therefore it cannot be demolished. So we would like to have the ability to use those dollars to do acquisition rehab. What we're finding is occurring with the home dollars because of the home regulations. It is more difficult to lend those dollars to homeowners at this time. We are using some dollars for rental rehab. Landlords are taking advantage of the program, but we do have a time crunch on these dollars. And so we did take this to CDA. They did recommend authorizing the use of these funds for acquisition rehab as well as homeowner and rental rehab.
Okay. Thank you. Item 4A is a public hearing. So at this time, I would like to open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on item 4A, please step forward, state your name and address. Second call, anyone wishing to speak on item 4A this evening. Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak on item 4A, resolution approving a change in use of the city's home program funds. Please step forward. Seeing none, I would like to close the public hearing at this time and entertain a motion from council for approval. It's a motion by Lupke. Is there a second? Second by Haynes. Any councilor comments or discussion? Seeing none, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 7-0. Item 5 on the agenda is citizens' participation. We have reached the part on the agenda now where citizens may come forward to discuss anything that's not listed on the agenda. We do ask you to refrain from personal attacks on counselors, staff. We do ask you to sum up your comments in 3 minutes. We will not cut you off, but however, be mindful of the time. We ask you when you come forward to please state your name and address. Is there anyone wishing to speak under citizens' participation? I do have one citizen participation sign-up sheet for the Rock County Sports Incorporated, Mr. Greg Bridges.
Good afternoon. I'm Greg Bridges. Been a resident here since 1988. We formed the organization called Rock County Sports Incorporated, and what we do, we try to reach our youth through youth programs in basketball and athletics. But the achievement that we've made was to get the youth eye by having a women's semi-pro basketball team. We've been in existence for 2 years now, and what we've done is pretty much the unthinkable. As a new basketball team, we've won a national championship 2 years in a row. And by us bringing tourism to the city, getting youth involved, I've had players from the high school work with us as managers, bringing dollars in. We have players who have moved to Rock County, to Beloit for the summer, and work here and play basketball. And we'd like to get some type of recognition as far as the sign is concerned. Welcome to Rock County, Beloit, Wisconsin. You'd be surprised how many people in Atlanta this year asked, where's Beloit, Wisconsin? How can I come play for you guys in Beloit, Wisconsin? That's enough about who I am. I want Mr. Youngblood to speak. He's our head coach. And one thing about him that a lot of people don't even realize that we won the national championship last year. This year, we also won the championship again, but we only had 3 players from the previous team. So that's a great feat. Mr. Youngblood.
Thank you for the time. I guess the biggest thing is we've, when we first started this, the whole idea was what we could do to help Beloit and help the state line area and help a lot of our young women in particular think about what they could do after they got done with high school. And I think we're at the point of doing that. We've had a lot of participation from the young ladies in the high school. The biggest thing, the ladies that we bring to play with us are all college grads. They're all professionals. Some of them are working on their masters, and so that's one of the big things that we push, and it's important to our organization with our players. And it also has an indication of the type of discipline and the type of attitude that our girls have. We have some of the young ladies that come and watch us practice. They get a sense of what it takes to be successful, and we're hoping that that's going to carry over within the other schools. I guess as far as the recognition goes, it's not so much about us, but the possibilities of what it will do for people that are looking at us and what we're doing. And kids like to see, if they see our name up there, they're going to want to be a part of something like that. And for me, that's the biggest reason I was attracted to it, because the impact it was going to have on the youth. And most of you know me, I'm always doing something with kids. So that was what really made me want to be a part of this organization. We've been really blessed by a good organization and a good town, actually, that supported us to be as successful as we have been.
Okay. Thank you. Just a couple quick questions. Are all the ladies that play, are they gone now? Back, or are they still around? Because I know when we talk about recognition, I think one thing that I would like to see, if we bring the team in, and maybe we have to wait till they all come back next year to do some kind of form of recognition for them, and I look to the city manager and see if that's something that we can do, a proclamation or just a congratulations from the city of Beloit. But I think I would like to have them all here if possible. And then the other piece, if I hear you correctly, what I think you're asking is, I know the entryway signs to the city of Beloit, where they have the congratulations to the hockey teams. If there's a way that we can get your name out there as the national champions as well. So I'll also look to the city manager, seeing if that's something that we could look into doing as well. Yeah. So, so
to answer your first question, one of the main goals with the semi-pro team, we try to empower women. A lot of women who don't finish college basketball because of a career-ending injury, they may want to come back, and our goal is to try to help them get employment contracts overseas. So last year we had 4 girls that ended up signing professional overseas. This year so far we have 3. We also have 2 that went back to school for their finished their college degrees, well, masters actually. So right now I can try to get some girls together. I don't know if we'll have the full 12, but because some are overseas, some are back in school right now, that may be hard, but we should be able to get a couple. All right. We also have Tiffany Morton, who's from Beloit, who played with us, as well as Jennifer Pisani. They are here. They are part of our championship team as well, and they are Beloit natives.
Okay. We can definitely be in contact with you further on what we want to do there. But I think, next season, if we can make sure that we get some schedules down here, and we can, at least see what's going on and know when the games are. And I know you do a lot of advertising on Facebook and email, but if we can get some schedules down here, we might want to take up a game. But I'm proud of the job that you've done, and I agree with you that the talent that comes to Beloit, it gives other people opportunity to see what the great things that we do in Beloit. So I'm really glad that you guys are doing this for us.
Thank you.
And I'm Harriet Everett, marketing, sponsorship, funding. I'm the one that begs for all the money, and we could take donations tonight if you'd like. But these packets, I don't know if everyone got one. I counted 7 counselors on the web page, and I see 10 people. But hopefully, if you didn't get one, you can make a copy. But this tells you a little something about the organization, our missions, and our goals.
Okay.
I don't know if everybody, the other packet was news articles, just some coverage that we've gotten that's positive for Beloit, which is my main reason for being a part of the organization, to help promote a positive image for Beloit. I get tired of all the negative stuff.
Okay.
And so this is a good organization, and it has a good mission and good motives.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm Karen Stokes, and I joined the team as the 50-50 raffle girl and worked my way through dedication and hard work to being a board member. I do it out of sheer enjoyment and fulfilling the dreams of Greg, the organization, and the girls that are prospering.
Okay. Thank you very much for stopping out this evening. Thank you. The next item on the agenda.
30 seconds. Hi, I'm Tim Listenby. I handle the youth programs in Beloit, well, affiliated with the Rock County Robins. We're trying to get this implemented throughout the school district. I'm volunteering my time to teach the younger kids, stability, education, the importance of, being successful in life. And what we're doing also is we're working with the school district. I just left a roundtable school meeting with the superintendent. So we're working diligently with the city of Beloit to empower all, when I say all, it doesn't matter who, young ladies, so they can grow up to be young ladies and be sitting where you guys are today and be our representatives of tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you very much. Item 6 is a consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered at this point on the agenda. Is there any councilor who would like anything removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, the consent agenda consists of items 6A through 6E. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval, Mr. President.
Motion by Vanderbogaert, second by Spreitzer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes 7-0. Item 7 is ordinances. There are none. Item 8 is appointments. I, Kevin D. Levy, duly elected president of the Beloit City Council, would like to recommend the following appointments subject to confirmation by the Beloit City Council. For the Board of Appeals, Carolyn H. Hansen, for a term expiring May 31st, 2013. For the Parks, Recreation, and Conservation Advisory Commission, Terry Lee Wilson, for a term expiring September 30th, 2014. To the Traffic Review Committee, Randy W. Cole, to a term expiring September 30th, 2013. Is there a motion for approval? Motion by Haynes, second by DeForest. All those in favor of approving these appointments say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, they are approved. And I would also like to announce the following vacancies. The Alcohol Beverage License Control Committee has a vacancy for a resident. The Board of Appeals has one vacancy for a regular term and one vacancy for an alternate. The Board of Ethics has one vacancy for a former city councilor. The Board of Review has one vacancy for a resident as an alternate. The Disabled Parking Enforcement Assistant Council, 3 vacancies for residents with disabled plates. The Equal Opportunities and Human Relations Commission, 2 vacancies for residents. Municipal Golf Committee has 1 vacancy for a youth representative. The Municipal Library Board has 1 vacancy for a resident of Beloit or a town adjacent to the city. Park, Recreation, and Conservation Advisory Commission has 1 vacancy for residents and 1 vacancy for youth. Traffic Review Committee has 1 vacancy for a resident, and if you're interested, you can stop by on the 2nd floor of City Hall, or you can go to the website and apply as well. Item 9, council activities and upcoming events. Councilor Spreitzer.
Thank you. I had the privilege of attending the Send Your Legislator Down the River event put on by the Rock River Coalition. We were able to have a town hall with Senator Tim Collins, Senator Mark Miller, and all 4 of our representatives from Rock County, as well as representatives from Cammie Baldwin and Ron Johnson's offices. It was a great event, and then we paddled down the river. I got to get my kayak out and got a chance to talk about Beloit to all the people who were down, and I think they got a real great impression of us, so it was a great event all around. And I also had the chance to go to the Porter Avenue Sharing Garden Harvest Celebration just this past week and get a chance to see how the garden turned out. Was there earlier in the spring for the neighborhood cleanup, and it was quite the change over the season to see everything, a lot of things harvested or ready to harvest, and just a great project. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Nuno.
Nothing further to add.
Councilor Lukey.
Just want to echo Mr. Spreitzer's comments about the Porter Avenue Garden. I too was there in the spring, and the change has been dramatic. And it just shows what a group of dedicated people can do to really improve a neighborhood. And this was a neighborhood in need of improvement. But with the citizens of that neighborhood, Beloit College students and others, it's been a dramatic improvement in that neighborhood. So just a pleasure to be there with Mark the other day. Thank you.
Councilor DeForest.
Thank you. I'd like to use my time to ask for 2 requests. One request is I'd like to see reference in staff reports in the future of the funding sources of the ticket items, those items that cost money. I know a lot of residents, when they look at our electronic packets, they just read the staff reports, and I think it would be helpful for them and for me, instead of having to go hunting and finding out where the funding source is for those things that cost, if we could please include that in the staff report to make them more user-friendly. And then secondly, a tough request, but I would like to request an update at some future council meeting on new revised or strengthened purchasing and accounting measures and internal controls related to employee purchasing. Thank you.
Councilor Haynes.
Okay, well, I'd like to congratulate the greater Beloit area on Autorama and the cruise night this weekend. I thought it went quite well, so thank you.
Councilor Vander Bogart.
Nothing this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you. And I have nothing this evening as well. Item 11 on the agenda is reports from boards and city officers. Item 11A, please.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to acquire tax delinquent properties from the Rock County Treasurer.
Mrs. Christensen.
In 2003, the City Council adopted a policy which directed the Community Development Department to work with the Rock County Treasurer to identify properties that are available through tax foreclosure and could be acquired for resale. Included in your packet is a table which does identify all of the properties that are available for sale within the city of Beloit. There are currently 30 properties available. We are recommending, staff is recommending 9 houses be purchased. There is a table that lists the 6 that are recommended for city purchase through the capital budget, and then there's a list of 3 houses that we are suggesting be purchased by the CDA or by the city for the CDA to be used for the neighborhood stabilization program. This table identifies the total amount that's owed and then an estimate, just given typical estimated expenses, what it would cost to purchase the properties. At this point, we have $58,600 in capital funds left in the acquisition account, and so it is not possible for us to buy all the properties. So we are just recommending those 6. The houses we are recommending because they are in the worst condition. We think they should just be demolished, and that would be in the best interest of the city to improve the neighborhoods that way this year. In past years, we've purchased houses and rehabbed them, but that's just not going to be possible with the money that we have. So that is what our recommendation is with the funds, with the houses to be purchased with the capital funds. There are 3 houses, 122 Hackett Street, 1123 Highland Avenue, and 637 Hackett Street. We are recommending that those be purchased through the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. The Community Development Authority did act on that in August and did concur and did recommend approval of that purchase. 3 of the properties, 1115 Johnson Street, 1017 6th Street, and 317 Portland Avenue, have a pretty good water resources balance on that. And they are agreeing to waive those delinquent bills. So if you look at the resolution, there is an actual water fund that shows on there of $9,739.21. And then that would reduce the amount that was owed to the county. And then the 6 houses that we are recommending for purchase, which we think would be ultimately demolished, are 1304 Prairie Avenue, 1215 Harrison Avenue, 1101 Randall Street, 1115 Johnson Street, 1017 6th Street, and 317 Portland Avenue. And also included in your packet was a summary of what all the properties were, their land use, their value, their size, and other characteristics.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion for approval.
Motion by Lupke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Haynes. Any councilor comments, questions? See, Councilor DeForest.
I'd like to make one comment. I'm glad that we're purchasing homes that we're planning on demoing, on demolition. And I understand part of our decision for not purchasing more is because we don't have the dollars, but I'm also glad to see that we're not trying to attempt to rehab more houses than we have federal or state funding to sustain. So I'm glad that we're focused on demolition at this point. Just like to make that comment. Thank you.
Councilor Nuno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also just wanted to point out for those that don't have access to this that 3 of the 6 units are multi-unit properties that used to be single-family homes. There are 2 of them. There were 3 units, and 1 of them that was a duplex. So this will greatly help to reduce density in our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Any other counselor? Seeing none, there is a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes 7-0. 11B, please.
A resolution amending the 2011 capital improvements budget to reflect the inclusion of the payment of earnest money for the purchase of the North Star Radioisotopes LLC project site.
Good evening.
Youngkie, please.
This is a companion to the next 2 items on the agenda, and Mr. Casper will be available to address any technical issues regarding those documents as well. This past July, Council entered into a development agreement with North Star Radioisotopes that included the provision that the city would assemble and convey the 33-acre project site for the company's proposed manufacturing facility that will leverage $194 million in private investment and create up to 150 new jobs. The city has negotiated offers to purchase with Turtle Creek Development and MLG BRC, who are the current owners of the project site. Those offers to purchase include the payment of non-refundable earnest money in the amount of $25,000 to both parties at the time of execution, and an additional $25,000 payment to MLG BRC by the end of this calendar year. The city will purchase 13 acres from MLG BRC and purchase 19.9 acres from Turtle Creek Development. Total cost to purchase both of these properties will not exceed $900,000, and the city will convey the property to North Star Radioactive Isotopes for $1 as an incentive to bring that company to our community. Source of funding is TID number 10, and we have sufficient cash reserves to pay not only the earnest money, but to actually close on the property when the time is appropriate. I'd be happy to try to entertain any questions that you might have.
Is there a motion for approval at this time?
Move approval, Mr. President.
Motion by Vandenberg, second by Haynes. Any counselor questions or comments? Counselor DeForest.
I'd just like to ask the question that I raised earlier for the public's sake so they can understand. I understand there's $25,000 in earnest set aside for both parties, and then there was an additional $25,000 set aside for MLG. Could you please speak to that?
We had very similar offers. We went to both parties. Turtle Creek was acceptable with that one payment, and actually MLG wanted us to close prior to when we wanted to close, so we negotiated an additional payment essentially.
Mm-hmm. Could you talk about why it was in our best interest not to close when they wanted to, so people can understand why it was worth the extra additional payment?
Our risk at this point is $75,000. If we moved ahead and purchased the property earlier, our risk could be up to $900,000. So I think we have less risk exposure with this approach.
And that's because if North Star doesn't follow through, we don't want to be stuck with land.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Spreitzer.
Am I correct that this isn't an additional payment if the thing goes through? It just goes toward the money we're already paying, and we end up exactly where we
Yeah, the earnest money is non-refundable, but it will go towards the proceeds of the sale when the sale occurs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other counselor questions or comments? Seeing none, there is a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor of approval say aye. 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 Any opposed? Seeing none, passes 7-0. Item 11C, please.
A resolution authorizing the city's acquisition of 13.14 acres of land owned by MLG BRC Beloit LLC for North Star project.
Attorney Casper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't know that I would have much to add beyond what Mr. Youngkie explained, so maybe I'll throw it open for any questions that you might have in the individual offers. I guess taking that back a little bit, I want to confirm the question from Mr. Spreitzer. All payments that we make in the way of earnest money, down payment, however you want to term it, are credited against purchase price. You know, assuming there's a closing and we're anticipating sometime next year, we'll get that all reduced from the total of the two purchase offers together come to exactly $900,000.
Okay, is there a motion? Motion by Luke, is there a second? Second by Haynes. Counselor DeForest.
I noticed on the offer to purchase that the reference to wetlands is crossed out, and we are aware that there is a wetland parcel on one of those pieces, a couple of acres, I believe. Has that been crossed out because it's being donated, or can you help me understand? I'm concerned about the preservation and status of that wetland piece on that parcel.
There is wetland, approximately 2 acres, as you've indicated. There's another roughly 1 acre that's going to be held aside for possible future road access into some remaining land that might otherwise become inaccessible. Before I get to your question, you might note the 900,000 calculates out to $30,000 per acre for 30 acres. We are only paying for the developable acreage, which is 30. The other land by covenant will not, both the road and the wetland is not to be developed, and neither us, them, nor anyone else is going to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Is that
Yeah.
okay? Thank you. Any other counselor having other questions? Seeing none, there is a motion and a second. All those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, passes 7-0. Item 11D, please.
A resolution authorizing the city's acquisition of 19.9 acres of land owned by Turtle Creek Development, LLC, for North Star Project.
Attorney Casper.
Maybe I'll just respond to questions here.
Okay, is there a motion for approval?
Motion to approve?
Motion by Newton, second by Spreitzer. Any counselor questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, passes 7-0. 11E, please.
A resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of approximately $8,645,000 of general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2011.
Mr. York, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'd like to note that the agenda was for the earlier bonds that the council approved at your last council meeting. Last week, we were reviewing some of the city's outstanding debt, and we came across another set of outstanding bonds that we asked our financial advisor, Ellers, to take a look at to see if they were also a candidate for refunding at this time. And based on their evaluation, we decided to add some 2004 bonds to the refunding late last week, and that's the reason that the number in the agenda heading is a little bit different from the actual results of the sale that took place today. As a result of that change, the total amount of the borrowing was increased, and the correct total is $11,080,000, which is the amount of the bonds that were sold this morning. Would like to report that the results of the sale are very favorable to the city. We will be receiving almost $900,000 in actual savings on this debt over the term of the bonds. They're roughly 15-year terms. Do have with us this evening Dawn Gunderson. She's with Ellers and Associates. They're the city's financial advisor. They handled the sale of these bonds earlier this morning. Dawn's going to get into some of the details of the results of that sale. And one final thing I'd like to mention is that in addition to the bond sale we had this morning, we also received notice from Standard & Poor's that they're affirming the city's A+ bond rating, which is also very good news for us too. But at this time, I'll turn this over to Dawn. She'll be glad to go through the details of the sale that occurred this morning. Dawn?
Good evening. You have before you two pieces of information, as Mr. York referred to the resolution and it would be for the sizing of $11,080,000 of general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2011. The second packet is the actual results of the sale. This morning at 10 o'clock, we took competitive bids for your issue. We went out into the market with the sizing of $11,195,000, which was determined the amount necessary to refinance these several issues. And with the results of the sale, we were actually able to lower the size of the bond issue down to the $11,080,000. And I'll explain the details for the reasoning behind that. In the packet of material, there is a listing of the 6 bids that we received with the sale, competitive sale this morning. They're listed on the bid tabulation in the order of the most favorable bid first, and they're all based on the true interest cost is the determination of a winning bid. J.P. Morgan Chase out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin was deemed to be the most favorable bid and the results of the sale with a true interest cost of 2.45%. The remaining bids came from Baird out of Milwaukee, U.S. Bank Corp out of New York, J.P. Morgan Securities out of New York, Hutchinson Shockey out of Chicago, and Stifel Nicholas out of Denver. And just to give you an idea of the difference between the bids, the second bid came in at 2.8%, and the top bid was at 3.25%. So I think this is a good example of the value of going out and doing these in a competitive basis. We feel that that's the best way to ensure that you get the best interest rate in the day that you're selling your debt. So the point of interest with the J.P. Morgan Chase is they've purchased these as an investment to hold in their own portfolio. Therefore, there's not the additional cost of an underwriter discount for them to remarket the bonds. When we sized the initial sizing at $11,195,000, we had built in an underwriter discount of about $111,000. So because of that, not having that discount, we were able to reduce the size of the bond issue in order to still accomplish the refinancing of the issue of the outstanding debt. Now, this issue will refinance current issues from 2003, 2004, and 2 issues in 2005. If you'll turn to, page 4 of the document, you'll see the amounts needed for each one of those issues. As Paul mentioned, the 2004 issue was not initially part of the review that was done at your last meeting. We had looked at that earlier in the year. That issue did not come callable until 2013, which tends to, the longer they are out there, the less likelihood that there'll be savings. However, with the rates still being in such a low environment, it was a workable deal, and there was actually about $125,000 savings on just that issue alone. So the sizing is identified on page 4, identifies the 4 issues that are being refinanced with this sale. And beginning on page 5 and 6 is the comparison with the initial estimated rates that we were using back in at your last meeting. At that time, we would have estimated about a $605,000 net present value savings, about $726,000 over the life of this new issue. And with the low rates that we did receive today, that savings amount is actually on a net present value, $745,000, but as Mr. York mentioned, it's almost $900,000 on an annual cash basis. So for budgetary purposes and the benefit to the city, it's between $52,000 and $71,000 on an annual basis. So those are real dollars that you'll experience and be able to save in the course of preparing and paying for your debt service in your annual budgeting. That's the summary of the sales results. In addition, included in the packet is the actual bond rating report from Standard & Poor's. The city holds a A+ bond rating with S&P. They affirmed that rating on all your outstanding debt and assigned it to this issue. And the report spells out what they based their determination on it. 3 points of interest are steady development and diversification of its tax and employment base, strong, very strong general fund reserves, and good financial management. Those are three key important items that they've clearly identified as to the basis of their rating. So congratulations on that. And the last piece of material in this chart is a one-year bond buyer index to show you where the rates have been over the last 12 months. We looked at these refinancing when we issued your regular capital financing this year. At that point in time, rates were much higher than they have been on average, and now they're about at least 0.5% below the average over the last 12-month period. So that's a benefit to you, and today's sales result are reflective of that. So I'm glad to answer any questions that any of you may have.
Okay. First of all, there a motion and a second.
Second.
Motion by DeForest, second by Newnham. Councilor Lupke.
Dawn, I want to thank you and Paul York for all you've done to save the city of $800,000. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Councilor Newnham.
Well, Dawn, you're probably not going to have this answer for me. But
I'll try.
But so I haven't asked this for a couple of years, but so given the challenges in the economy, I'm wondering. I know about 4 years ago there were only at least 15 municipalities or towns in the state of Wisconsin that had at least an A+ bond rating. Do you know if that's changed very much? Probably wouldn't.
You know,
have that
honestly,
off the top
we
of
can
your
get
head.
that information for you, but I don't have that on top of
For
my.
those that are out there, though, that gives you the idea of what a great job our staff has done for all the citizens of Beloit. It's a very impressive mark.
Yeah, I might add too that Standard & Poor's goes through a very serious analysis of the management of the clients that they rate or the communities that they rate, and Beloit certainly has been highly recognized for the efforts that staff have put forward in your long-range planning efforts and your ability to have established debt goals and policies and to maintain and stay and live within those policies. So I commend you on that as well.
Councilor Van der Bogart.
Those were essentially the points I wanted to make. First, that one, this isn't new borrowing. Secondly, by doing this, we're saving $800,000 plus. And the last piece of, I thought, excellent news was the affirmation or reaffirmation of our A+ bond rating, that even in tough times, we're doing very, very well with managing our money.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not, we need a roll call for this. So if there's no other councilor questions, there is a motion and a second. So we have roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Passes 7. Is there any opposed? Hearing none, passes 7-0. Item 12. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by DeForest. Is there a second by Lupke? All those in favor of adjournment say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned.